We are back with more Sonic Frontiers. The Cocos are happy about it. Are you? Are you, Knuckles?
No, the Cocos are just there to remind you how neglectful you're being to the elder Cocos.
Oh, well.
Have you seen the clips I've been making, or the time of this recording anyway, the clips I've been making the rounds with this game where apparently once you 100% everything and you like head up across certain areas, the voice will just now start giving you tutorials about how the Coco work?
What?
Really?
Yeah. Apparently there are voice clips from the voice that you can only hear after you already 100% the game, and I'm thinking it's just a
Bug.
developer snafu. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of unused, like, ambient dialogue from Sonic. Some of it's tied to that memory loss plot that they abandoned. And I think there are a few extra references and stuff that ended up not being used. That kind of thing.
Well, it's either not used or it's incredibly rare. Because I personally never heard the comic references, like when you mentioned Tangle specifically.
Well, a lot of that stuff is random and tied to place. Like, Sonic will actually make a comment about the scenery around him. Sometimes, but not all the time. It's like one of the most bafflingly randomized things in this game is that that Sonic has a lot of ambient dialogue. But instead of doing that thing where the characters talk all the goddamn time, like in a lot of modern games, there's just like a random dice roll going on in the background that very occasionally triggers some of the dialogue or something. And sometimes it's something interesting, like Sonic musing that maybe Eggman. Well, I don't know why I corrected myself when I said Robotnik. They're both correct, technically. But there's one interesting line of dialogue where after he finds out what the deal with Sage is, Sonic actually muses to himself that maybe Eggman will straighten himself out after this. Like, just like, I don't think so, but like, he doesn't sound like he's being sarcastic. He does sound genuinely hopeful that maybe something good will come of this development.
I can't actually wait like until after certain things happen in this like playthrough, though we can actually dive into that while being appropriate about it, because that is kind of like the underlying question that just kind of lingers in my head now after playing this game.
Oh, yeah. Like, where is Eggman gonna go?
Where's everybody gonna go? I think after this game
if I may make a prediction,
is also a valid question. Yeah, go right ahead.
I predict that we will get another adventure era style redesign for everyone, age them up a tiny bit, give them slightly tweaked designs, and skip ahead a few years continuity wise.
How would you age him up? I would think.
Well, Sonic will have another age agnostic birthday party, and he'll still be a teenager. We're just going to pretend that hedgehogs have really long teenage years, like hobbits. You see,
just swaps his shoes for a pair of dress shoes or some other shit.
Like, I'm not even kidding. Hobbits come of age at 33. That's a plot point. So,
what if he just like pokes his eyes like and his green eyes just become brown again? He's like, you know what? The context phase is over.
I thought it was like chaos energy that happened because he went too fast or some other such thing.
You're talking about
yes, I am talking about They actually made the redesigns a plot point. It was very strange.
I mean, I understand it's like you have to go with the new mandates and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we got to explain how the hell he's got green eyes and longer quills. All right, well, so he went so fast with emeralds that he absorbed a lot of chaos
he did
energy.
The thing. He went fast.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I would have accepted it totally fine if between one issue and the next, there was just like a slight like fade through time and everyone looked a little different.
I was gonna say you could just put a black box that says sometime later. That's literally it. That's all you have to do is a small time gap. People will buy it
eventually.
It was literally like a DC Comics Flash style like comic reboot situation too, where Sonic like ran around the world really fast and some shit.
I think in terms of Tails going a little older, he's just gonna wear a black T-shirt and look like Nine from Sonic Prime.
You give him a cape and a really serious
expression. A cape? No, we're done with the comics.
Give him a cape and a really talking. Serious expression, and he's suddenly God, like literally God.
I'm not alone in thinking that Nine is the best character in Sonic Prime as of now, right? I'm not sure if you guys actually seen episodes of it?
watched Sonic Prime yet. I was curious about it, but then some stupid controversy about something vaguely connected to Sonic Prime happened, and it just kind of soured my mood toward the whole thing. So I'm waiting for that to
Well, I
wear
mean,
off.
the only sort of controversy I've seen with Sonic Prime specifically, just that it's clearly one season that's.
I said
that's
something
split up.
connected to it. Some gaming thing. Some developer that wasn't paying their employees properly, or some shit. You know, another Tuesday on Twitter. But like it was all over my feed, and it's like, yeah, okay. I wasn't like super enthusiastic for Sonic Prime in the first place, but now I'm just waiting until
It's like my enthusiasm for Sonic Prime was kind of the same as just like the animated like Boom shorts, essentially, where it's like, yeah, I'll give it a watch, and if I like it,
I
I'll
also
like it.
figured like I should probably put some distance. This is a more practical concern. I should probably put some distance between my expectations as of Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Prime, because I feel like they're gonna have two like really different tones to them, and I don't want to like.
And
yeah,
they do.
uh,
They are night and day, actually.
One's a werehog.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay. I think I should wait and cool off on Frontiers before I dive into Prime. Because I really, really like Frontiers' tone, and I feel like if I dive right into Prime, that's also going to be a disappointment for me.
Whoosh.
Yeah.
You just taste the whiplash.
Yeah. I'm like really attached to the characters as they're portrayed here. Also, like, yeah, if you were at all like wondering whether or not the aliens were supposed to be connected to Chaos, Eggman spells it out in his memos here. It's a good thing he lost them all in the same virtual reality fishing minigame pond, so that we could like get them from Big the Cat later.
Again, I have to ask, why are these fucking here in Big's fishing game?
You know, I have a feeling that they had something else planned for the egg memos, but they moved them to the fishing minigame because they didn't have time to implement whatever that was. That's something that I've been noticing more and more often lately as I play games, is that there are places in the games where there have been perplexing changes in design that you can almost see if you squint at the game too much, like that house in Hateno Village and the NPC halfway across town who inexplicably summons your goddamn horse every time you talk to him. Like, you can almost tell that NPC was supposed to be the horse guy who was supposed to work at your house, but they never implemented anything to the house beyond weapon stands and a bed. So, oops.
See, like this right here, like this is great, like stuff to hear. Should have been a cutscene. Like, I should not have been listening to this in an egg memo with very, static text. Also, Eggman says trans rights. That's good.
That's specifically what pronouns he prefers.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of like asking like whether the program itself wants to be called it or she. So you know, it's kind of like, and this is like a relatable question. How do you start talking about a computer program when it starts blurring the lines between being a person and a program?
I think that's just it. Like, yeah, that's the. But I also think that's also the answer. You start talking about it.
Yeah, and it's like, interesting that Eggman has enough like human decency beneath all of his world domination ego to think about that kind of thing. But yeah, it's also interesting that like this is touched on very briefly, but it's also like the only time they've ever touched on it. Eggman's thoughts about his family and how he felt around the time that Maria died. And that's like something like a Sonic Adventure 2 never even brought up, is it? Whether or not Eggman had any particular feelings that related to Maria or her death.
Which is odd, because I think there was plenty of opportunity to do so, considering that game's story was centered around the villains.
Yeah, and like Eggman talks about his grandfather a little, but he never talks about Maria. So, like, we don't really get any context for where Eggman sits in that family dynamic. Like, beyond the fact that he kind of admired his grandfather because he was a scientist.
I was gonna say, do you think he cares though?
About Maria?
Because I
or-
feel that, anybody actually, I would say, because I think that if they wanted to do that, they would have done that. Because I personally also thought that Adventure 2 could have maybe done something a little more with that. If like Eggman and Shadow specifically was like, you were alive when my grandfather was alive. Can you tell me what he was like?
Well,
And that sort of thing.
caring is one thing, but not caring and having a more cynical view towards your family is also a valid character trait. And I feel like that's where Eggman falls. He doesn't like lament the death of Maria. What he does in the Egg Memos is he expresses some envy about how much affection and love Maria received at the time of her death, because he apparently didn't get that even though he was alive. And that's a complicated feeling and, you know, pretty selfish, but at the same time, you know.
A very understandable one, considering he was supposed to be a kid at the time that happened.
Yeah, you know.
But that just raises a lot of questions, though, in terms of, you know, we know about Eggman's like grandparents or grandfather, but what about his parents and any other relatives?
Okay, so setting that aside for half a minute, this minigame is annoying. It's really easy, but it's also annoying. Like, trying to position this goddamn thing with no depth perception is like, you just kind of have to
Guess.
You're lining up the pillar of the crane itself with the object in question. Don't look at the shadows at all. It will just serve to confuse you. This is also strangely precise, because like if the ball is not almost dead center, it won't count at all.
It'll drop it. Like that.
You can also just completely ignore this.
You can. Yeah, you can. Like, I demonstrated earlier that you can get into the boss arena without doing this puzzle, but the only way you're going to trigger the cutscenes properly is by doing this puzzle.
I think you could also. So, are you aware of like how you can jump on the terrain? Like, actually, the terrain here on the right side.
Yeah.
And squeeze into the little gap in the center of it. It's right above the door.
But will that trigger all of like the cutscenes and stuff without you needing to find the boss trigger space?
From what I've seen in speedruns of this game, if you ignore this ball puzzle and go through the gap on the door, it will load the boss fight. I don't know if it'll mess with anything else in the story, because at that point they're just continuing on with Island 3 and above until
I'm
the
not
game's
asking
done.
if it'll load the boss fight, because I know you can load the boss fight without loading the cutscenes in order. What I'm talking about is all this other stuff. The stuff that, you know, the story does.
You'd have to ask a speedrunner. I'm not sure myself.
Because, you know, for me, it's neat to know that all these exploits and skips are available for those who want them, but I also don't want them. I want to play the story, you know?
Well, but at that point, why ask the follow-up question at all?
I mean, like, if it's possible to skip a puzzle, I don't care, as long as I get to see all the story stuff and it triggers properly and doesn't.
Okay, so you want like the best of both worlds. You want to ignore the pain in the ass puzzle, but still
I'm
get the story
mostly
bits.
curious because the puzzle takes like 30 seconds to do, so it's not really a big deal. But like, is there a way to skip the puzzle without shooting the game's scripting in half?
See, I would think that if you even consider doing it, though, you've already played the game for the story.
Yeah, but like, it's still a question worth asking.
I mean, fair.
I don't know why I keep missing like really basic boost era platforming things with this control scheme, but like some of it feels like it was made for a slightly different control feel than it was. Anyway, here we are again. Sonic's looking around like, wait, wasn't I here 2 parts ago?
Why weren't you here before?
I should do something about
Now, this is my least favorite supersonic boss in the game, to be honest, because, like,
It's one of my favorite songs.
It's a great song. They're all great songs, but, like, the actual mechanical boss fight that we're about to play, I just find it not very fun. It's a little bit awkward. Like, maybe this particular boss needed a little bit more time in the oven than it got.
I was going to say, how many cuts did you do? Because you clearly just cut past.
I had to include that one because I have no idea how that one's screwed up.
No, you
But
just
no,
didn't
I only made 2 attempts to get up to the boss. It's just that like at the very end of that first attempt, that happened. Anyway, what you need to do to get up to this battle is to climb the trailer tower and you know, just wait for the boss to show up and then jump out.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Well, yeah, because
trailer
like these towers are unironically the least interesting thing about the game, but they ended up being featured so prominently in like reveal footage because they're big towers, and you know that stokes the idiot part of your brain that thinks of big epic things and it gets excited by them.
Tell me how you really feel.
Well, I mean,
So I think, all right, so with that said, then, is it correct to assume that Island 4 is your least favorite island?
what?
If you don't like the towers, if you think they're just kind of simple or like too simple or boring at the very least, and Island 4 is nothing but you climbing those towers.
Well, no, because the towers themselves on Island 4 are like really considered platforming challenges. Those were fun. But
Right.
the towers in the open zone exploration bits are just like towers that you can climb effortlessly. They don't ever do that thing that Breath of the Wild's towers do, where there are location-specific challenges around them, and actually getting up to the top of certain towers becomes a puzzle because there's all this goop around it, and you have to platform around on these ruins that are surrounding the tower, and then find a place that will let you climb up. That sort of thing is fun, and they never do it here. The towers are just landmarks at best. Sometimes getting to the top of the tower might be part of one of those timed challenges where you have to hit a space to get the map thing activated, but they never really go very hard on those, so who cares?
I would argue they do it one time in Island 3, but it's also like not fun.
Yeah. But like, I like the towers on Island 4. Island 4 felt like climbing Sky Sanctuary Zone, you know? It felt like that kind of.
I like the climatic feel to it, as if we were finally going to get to like a major revelation. And then I kind of laugh when it ended up being nothing more than a wet fart.
The music is so dramatic, but oh well. Here we are.
Da, 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 da.
You know, they really should have triggered this cutscene the moment you landed on the damn thing's head, instead of making you awkwardly walk to the emerald.
Yeah, because what if you get the shakies and you just fell off? Yeah, this song fucking slaps.
I mean, once you're standing on there, you can't really fall off, so. Anyway, this stupid Wyvern boss is just kind of like awkward to control. It's trying to do the Doomsday Zone thing, but like, you can't really avoid these missiles. Your only viable option is to counter. And that's what you're supposed to do.
I never got the idea to parry the missiles. I just avoided them all until I was able to get to the head.
Really? How did you avoid getting hit then?
Yeah. I just bob and weave left and right. See, I looked at it as like a Star Fox simulator.
It's so hard to tell where they're going to go, though.
I'm not saying I did it. I'm not saying I was good at it.
Also, it's hard to tell when you can actually hit this thing. You see how I just sort of clipped through the boss?
Phased through its neck.
I clipped through the entire boss because the actual like opportunity to hit it has closed. But anyway, yeah, it's really easy to fight Wyvern. Just parry a missile. It'll stun the darn thing. You'll get some rings on the way, and then...
Oh, so when you parry the missile, that whole sequence where you're catching up to it is automated,
Yeah,
it looks like.
pretty much.
Really? Okay, yeah. I did not know that you can parry the missiles. I just manually flown real close to it.
Of course, at the halfway point, no matter how much time you have left while the boss is vulnerable, you get this cutscene where it
You gotta
shoots...
do the whole Evangelion thing.
Yeah. There are... It's kind of funny how obvious the shades of Breath of the Wild, Evangelion, and Nier Automata are in this game, because, like...
I also think Shin Godzilla Shin Godzilla was also a prominent comparison
Well, that
too.
was also Hideki Anno, so.
Yeah.
Was Shin Godzilla like big at the time when this game was starting development?
No. A couple years ago.
Well, I mean,
But it's a well beloved kaiju movie, and yeah, as Ryan said, Ava director. It's really good. I would recommend it.
okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind. I'm not really much for kaiju movies, though.
I think you'd like Shin Godzilla.
Maybe.
You know, because it's not typical 70s 80s era Godzilla. It is a very very dark interpretation of the character. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'd like it. But anyway, this is the end, and of course, every one of these bosses needs to have an epic finisher.
Of course it does. As soon as it loads.
Hey, get back here.
Knowing where the story is going, though, I always feel like a bit of an instinctive cringe of unease every time Sonic destroys one of these things. Just
Why do you say that?
well, because every Titan destroyed is one less Titan that can fight the big bad at the end, you know?
I was like, what are you doing, you idiot?
But God told me to destroy these things.
It's like if Sonic were tricked into destroying all the Power Rangers Megazords, you know?
That'd be some shit. What a twist. It's like you destroy the last Titan and it immediately jump cuts to Reed Repulsa. I'm free.
I mean, that's basically what happens. But, yeah, okay, so the Wyvern is dead. The Wyvern is dust. It's a good thing it exploded into dust, because that's a lot of debris.
Damn it. Like, I kind of wish that the game was ready to end now, because, like, after Sonic kills the final Titan and Say just goes, way to go, you fucking idiot.
Okay, well.
Not bad. Things would have been over faster if I'd been super.
Hey, rare reference to Super Knuckles.
Oh, don't
He said the
don't
thing.
even give me that. Super Knuckles isn't even allowed in the flying stages.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you going to do? Glide him to death? You're on borrowed
I mean,
time,
you can
buddy.
play as Super Knuckles in Mania if you play Knuckles in Knuckles mode, but
Yeah.
that's the only time.
I believe that is a non-canon.
I think he does go into his gliding animation when he's flying.
I mean, a Knuckles with emeralds in any capacity should be able to fly anyway. I don't know why the hell. If anything, I think Knuckles will probably better utilize their emeralds better than
I
Sonic.
think the implication is that Sonic has a natural affinity for the Chaos Emeralds, but
yeah.
like other characters don't share to the same extent, except maybe
For
for
some
Blaze
reason.
and except
Or don't get the opportunity that Sonic
well,
does.
except Blaze, arguably, and Shadow.
I'd say Shadow. Yeah, I was going to say Shadow does. But
Yeah.
He was kind of designed to in the first place, so.
Although after Shadow goes through the whole Final Hazard thing, he sort of powers down and falls into the atmosphere. Yeah,
falls in the
so-
atmosphere. Happens to everybody.
So maybe he's not as good at the whole super thing as Sonic is.
First try versus, at that point, like third or fourth.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Sonic has to be good at everything. Literally learns chaos control watching someone.
Well,
do it
anyway, welcome to the least polished island on the game. It's at this point that you can really tell that they were kind of running out of time, because things get a bit not good.
I would love to learn the developmental history of this game at some point or another. Like if someone like just gets a spreadsheet of facts and knowledge about how this game was made in the last, what was it? Because development of this game started not too long after Forces was finished.
And it's not like the game had a particularly constrictive development window. It's probably more like a lot of that time was spent on experiments.
Yeah. Well, I also believe COVID also had
That
something to do with it too.
You know, there's a lot of compounding issues. This is the worst puzzle type in the game.
So who here likes Tetris?
It's a really random fucking Tetris reference.
Well, basically what you need to do for these is look at the fully completed block combination and figure out what combination you're supposed to drop the blocks. Some of them are really easy, but a few of the later ones can get a little visually confusing. And it's not really hard, but it is annoying enough that it holds you up for a little while, you know? I also like have no memory for this stuff, so I always have to solve the puzzle anew every time that I reach this point in the game.
It is a later part of the game, so.
I think anything that involves falling blocks or any sort of puzzle element, I don't, unless I really like the puzzle in question, I will never ever commit
I've
to
seen
memory.
people talk about Island 5 like they're just done with the game by that point and they skip over all the challenges by doing fishing.
That was me.
Yeah, but to be honest, the only island that gives me that kind of feeling is Island 3. Because Island 3, like, there are things about it that I definitely like, but a lot of the obstacle course puzzle placement is locked into 2D, and that means that navigating this island is a pain in the butt. And then when you combine the design of the island with the pop-in problem, it's hard to navigate the island because you can't see all of the things that you need to see to be able to tell where you're supposed to go.
Which really sticks his head out in one particular section that we'll see soon enough. Because it's the one part that everybody hated about this island.
I feel like when they were designing this game, they were designing the game for farther draw distance than they actually ended up using in the optimization process. And then Island 3, they would have needed to do a lot more than just simple tweaks to make it work with that. So Island 3 got the worst of it.
I'm hoping because they are playing the long run with this, in terms of like the game's roadmap and all that, that time is taken to like patch it to make it better, at the very least.
That would be nice. There's no real reason why on next-gen consoles or on PC at high settings that the game should be restricted to this draw distance. It's just, like, you know, allow at least more distance before everything pops out to save RAM. That would be nice. At least it's not Pokemon, though. Pokemon. Holy shit.
Yeah, Scarlet and Violet are just kind of... Man, this was designed for 2 generations ago, guys.
Kind of. But also, like, why does it run so bad outside of portable mode?
I got no opinion on it because I haven't played it myself. The only thing I can say from my perspective is that apparently, like, if you look past the blemishes, it's actually a really fucking good Pokemon game. It's just,
oh yeah,
why is it like this?
I played it to completion, and I played like part of Scarlet on top of that. So I played like the whole Violet version, and I played like 2 badges into Scarlet, bearing in mind that's 2 badges while I was doing EV training, so something like 20 hours.
Oh,
well, you can EV train effectively from the very start of the game for a change, so I wanted to try that out, and it works really well.
Why would you do that, though? Do you really need to EV train?
Well, I mean, it's neat to be able to EV train your Pokemon while you're going through the story instead of backloading all that grinding. But it does mean that you have to be careful about what random Pokemon you fight and with what Pokemon on your team, because your whole team shares the XP, which means they all share the EVs as well. So,
see, I would never consider EV training unless it was for my end game team or post game team. Like story team, I might be replacing Pokemon left and right.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what the game encourages you to do, is replace Pokemon left and right. But you can at least work on that stuff as you're going through the game, which is nice because, like, in Sword and Shield, for as easy as it made entering into the multiplayer, you couldn't really get the EV training items until after you'd beaten the entire game, you know? But you can just buy them in the first town now. 10,000 Poke Dollars a pop, so it takes some doing, but you can get them. And, it's an option. And it's just one more way that you can play the game. The game's difficulty curve in the early game is really too easy, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints with how the game is laid out. I just wish it performed better. Like, Jesus Christ.
All right, all will be said and done when the Switch Pro finally comes out. Where's everybody gone? Come back.
Nah, dude, I want a Switch Pro because, like, I've played Breath of the Wild on emulator, and my God, is it pretty. I want that HD remaster, damn it.